Hello everyone. So I welcome you to the session 1. Today is 18th August, right? And the objective for today's session is to understand what mistakes one usually makes in the actual exam and how to avoid it. I'm not going to target any change, or you could say, I don't expect the student to make changes in the style of essay writing at this point of time. Whatever you have been doing, whatever you have been learning, or whatever you have been actually using to write your essays up till now, please stick to that. But there will be few discussions on certain small aspects which you consider and avoid making mistakes. I'm sure it will help you get a significant amount of jump in the essay scores, right? So let's start the discussion, and then we will take it up over there, that what all needs to be done. This particular PPT or this particular session is just about those mistakes, okay? And there are a lot of mistakes to be covered. Don't worry, it's not just 5 mistakes or so. There's a lot of mistakes to be covered. So in a way, this is more like the session focusing on how to avoid mistakes and what needs to be done for the essay. The later parts, or I would say there's one more video which I'll record. It will focus more on the content perspective. My aim is not to give you some new content, or in a way not bombard you with content. Of course, here and there few names might feel new to you, but then I'm assuming that whatever things that I'll be discussing today, you will be familiar with them. You must have heard it somewhere, you must have seen it written in some toppers copies or even in your friends copies. So that familiarity needs to be brought in so that you are able to use such examples in the essay exam. True, but right now we'll just focus on the mistakes part. So the first thing is that the major mistake, and this is all my observations over the past few years, I have emphasized upon this time and again many times, but still, yes, because the topics change in the exam, see, we tend to make those mistakes. So the first mistake is the wrong interpretation of the topic, right? When you're doing a wrong interpretation, you are actually taking away the chance to score high. Because if the interpretation is wrong, it's totally off track. It's saying the topic is saying something else. You are trying to interpret or analyze it in a different direction. That's going to lead to less scores. I am very sure many students are making this mistake. They were making this mistake in the years of 2021 and 22 when the topics were a little bit tricky to interpret and understand. So, but in the year of 23 and 24, what I've realized is that fairly there is improvement in the essay topics being given. That is, it is easy to interpret. So maybe there in the recent years of 23 and 24, the wrong interpretation is not happening, but this partial interpretation is more of a problem. And both these things, either individually or together, or the partial interpretation is much of a larger concern. If you are doing a partial interpretation, there was supposed to be some other arguments which needed to be covered and you haven't covered it, then you are actually planning to get a low score. Because let's understand it from the perspective of the evaluator. They want to give you marks, but if in your copy they are not able to find any chance, any avenue to give you higher marks, how will they actually score you? Because they can't give you marks over something which is either wrong or have been done as a half work, right? Now, what is the tip over here? There is one slight advantage for the students who speak Hindi, who belong to the regional, Hindi speaking belt, which is that if you have a confusion for the interpretation, please cross check with the Hindi translation that's been given in the question paper, right? You also get topics in the Hindi. So please cross check it with that whatever you're interpreting, is it on the right parameters or right direction or not? I am not saying that you will totally depend on the Hindi translation, because it has happened in the last few years that some topics, Hindi and English, translation or the actual meanings were not getting relevant to each other, or they were not actually on the same meaning. So they were differing in certain meanings. So what I'm trying to convey is, of course, while choosing the topic, please refer to the English one, and just to confirm, do glance over the Hindi translation, right? But let's now understand through examples how we can actually focus on or improve this aspect of the partial or the wrong interpretation. Now, of course, what's going to happen in the exam, nobody knows. But we will at least try not to make some rookie mistakes, not to make some basic mistakes, right? And then what you need to understand is that while, okay, just give me a moment. I hope you're able to see the board properly. Okay, yes. So we need to understand that every keyword or key phrase is important. Please don't miss out on the keyword aspect. If you have given a topic, every word in that topic is important. It can be understood or interpreted to be used as one single argument, if not the core argument, but maybe a slight, peripheral kind of argument can be extracted. Basically, you need to understand that you will not miss any word of the topic. Please try and see that word, whatever extra word or whatever that particular word is there in the topic, can it be used to frame an extra argument or not, right? It could be even one paragraph idea, but don't miss it out, right? Now, I've taken some examples because it's better to, understand with the examples. This is the last year's topic. The empire of future will be the empires of mind, right? So of course we do understand this empire of future phrase is important and empires of mind is important, but my concern is also that when it's saying as empire and when it's saying like future, with future what can I think? Of course my mind will always try to go for the opposite word also, that of course future means future, right? What's going to happen? But then empires of future, so in a way, isn't this phrase particularly hinting towards that what the empires of the past look like? We don't have empires right now. This quote in the current context was actually very cryptic and metaphorical. We don't have any empires existing right now. So you have to understand that what this topic is going to imply. Of course, the main meaning or the interpretation is that the empires of future, that means all those civilizations and societies which will be existing in the future will be the empires of mind. That means they will be based out of the human ingenuity, human intellect, human innovation, and science and technology progress or prowess, right? So but for me, this empire of future means what did the empires of past look like? And I could from there start my either introduction or start my first paragraph of the body content, right? So even a small word, one particular word can give you some sentences to write. And actually is very useful. Why? Because it brings variety and diversity to your topic. So what's the learning over here? We will not miss out on any word. Every word has some significance you need to take into account, and that is why I've mentioned the phrases also, because this entire phrase empire of future. Now let's have a look at this example too. Thinking is like a game. It does not begin unless there's an opposite team. This topic was asked in the year 2023. And this like a game, it's not just written just for, to fill the pages or just to make the essay topic look long and complex. It's written because it's serving a purpose. It's trying to compare the word thinking with like a game. So this topic is not just plain simple thinking or human thought process. This topic is comparing the thinking process to a game because it does not begin unless there's an opposite team. Just like a game has two opposite teams vying for championship, vying for a award or a win. Similarly, thinking is also supposed to be treated like a game because it does not begin unless there is an enemy team. And now thinking for humans, that means in what situations you're thinking. When you're solving a problem, when you have faced an adversity, when you are into some challenges, and that is your opposite team. So human versus the adversity is the game over here, and human can win in this game only when he uses or she uses the thinking process. So thinking is like a game. It is not talking about the simple plain thinking, and that is why, though your major topic, your core argument is about the comparison of thinking is like a game, it needs to start when you have some adversity or challenge. Your counter argument could be about the plain relaxed way of thinking. That means any thought, any debate or any conflict which is going on in your mind, when you are relaxed, when you're not facing any challenge or adversity, is your counter argument, because that's what we do, right? It's not always that when a problem comes in, then only we think of the solution. Our thought process of maybe bringing some change, bringing some improvement in self or on the outside world can happen even when we are not caught up in some adversity. So this is how you need to think, and of course this thinking has to be quick in the exam. The way I'm explaining, of course, I'm taking my own sweet time to explain it to you, but this thinking has to be actually very quick in the exam, and that is why you'll be able to actually not miss out on any important keyword, and you will be able to figure out the core theme, core argument of the topic, and even the peripheral arguments, right? Every word is important. Please keep that into mind, okay? Now, you also need to keep into perspective that your every keyword could have a literal and a metaphorical meaning attached to it. So, any topic, you know, or any essay topic where you have multiple words, there any word could be used to denote the literal meaning, and it could be understood as that you can align it with some different meaning in different contexts. That is a metaphor. So maybe if you have a topic like you may have to fight a battle more than once to win it. Now this topic was given in Visions Abhyas. I have deliberately taken this topic for discussion because many students, they showed me their Abhyas copy, and I was able to see that even, sincere students who have, good essay writing skills, sometimes they were making mistake in such kind of topics. So what does it mean? You may have to fight a battle more than once to win it. So this battle, of course, in the literal sense is of course conveying a battle, but then in the metaphorical sense, it is talking to any kind of endeavor taken by humans, any kind of action, any kind of, you could say course of action or steps that you're taking to maybe win something in life. It could be a goal, dream, desire. Sometimes it's not easy. You don't get success in one go, right? So you may have to fight a battle more than once to win it. And can you see the difference? It's not many battles. It's about fighting a single battle more than once. So please understand there's a nuance difference. There are two students who did, a mistake in this, where they assume that it's talking about the multiple battles. No, it's talking about the same battle, but you have to fight it more than once to win it. There are many, you could say things or issues present in the world where we have to take a lot of actions, different, variety of actions to actually solve it. And that's what the topic is about, right? Then there's this topic that I had given in my test series. Let him who would move the world first move himself. And I've written the names because, if we are discussing and if you remember by chance these quotes, so who has said it, you will be able to use it in the exam. So my endeavor is that in the present 3 days of sessions that I'm taking, any quote that I'm coming across, I'll be mentioning it's, the person's name, so that because when we discuss, we are able to remember it. So you don't have to invest a lot of separate time to mug up the quotes. Few quotes here while discussing will get imprinted onto your mind. So you may have to fight a battle more than once to win it is by Margaret Thatcher, the ex-PM of Great Britain, or you could say England. Let him who would move the world first move himself is quoted by Socrates, right? And then this is the topic I gave in my test series, and I put it deliberately because I knew that people will be confused with the literal and the metaphorical meaning of the phrase. So let him who would move the world first move himself. This is not about exact physical movement. It's about the change. Let him who would move the world, the one who wants to bring changes into the world. Move, change, right? Move the world, first move himself. So, first target changing yourself. First target, sorry, just a moment. First target changing about yourself, bringing the progress in yourself, go for self development, and then think of changing the world, right? So, move the world is not the literal movement, it's about the metaphorical. So, what is the lesson that we are learning here? That whatever essay topic you're choosing and whatever words are important, you will figure out its literal and metaphorical meaning. I hope you're getting the meaning of the metaphorical term. So, focus on both the literal and metaphorical, because both can help you get a lot of arguments and examples, right? So be careful in this aspect. Now, there's also one more thing that I want to discuss, which is that when you are brainstorming, when you have picked up a topic, right, and you are brainstorming, please do this work. The topic again is you may have to fight a battle more than once to win it. Through this example, I want to explain what? That please understand the theme. Please understand the theme of the topic. You will get many diverse ideas. Because I said literal and metaphorical, so when metaphorical is for the particular words present in your essay topic. But then when you read a particular topic, what is the overall holistic meaning? What is the underlying theme or essence? If you write it down, again, it will lead to great amount of diverse ideas or arguments, right? So please do this exercise simply on the paper. Write whatever ideas are coming into your mind. Don't go into a lot of things, just few basic ideas. So when I read this topic, you may have to fight a battle more than once to win it. What ideas come into my mind? Success doesn't come easy, because I have to fight a battle many times to win it. That means success for me is not coming easy. That's one of the aspects of the theme. Then it is also talking about importance of consistent efforts. Because I was not able to get success in one go, I have to fight that battle many times, and while fighting that many times, that particular battle, of course, it is showing or it is asking me to be consistent in my efforts. So importance of consistent efforts. Of course, when I'm not able to win that battle in one go, it is talking about failures in your endeavor, failures in life, failures in your endeavor, failures, or we could say failure to achieve your dream. It could also mean that if I have to fight a battle many times, it means I am ill prepared and there is a mistake. Failure, mistake, you could combine it together. I was just trying to, like, write all the ideas that were coming into my mind. Actually, I picked up the topic and start thinking. So this is my, you could say, the first step of brainstorming. Whenever I pick up a topic, I tend to take it in a holistic sense, so that I am not missing out on any major argument when I'm writing the body content, right? So it means, of course, if I'm not able to get success, either I'm ill prepared or there is some mistake which is happening, right? And then, of course, here consistent efforts, but then what are the values which I am required? Persistence and consistency. I need to be consistent in my efforts. I need to be persistent in my efforts, because if I'm not getting success in one go, I need to be putting in efforts again and again. So when you do this particular thing, when you actually write down that whatever major ideas the topic is conveying, the first step was to figure out the literal and the metaphorical meaning of the every word and the phrases. The second step is actually to figure out the theme. What is the topic trying to say? What is the hidden meaning or essence of the topic? Right? It's not talking about battle. It's not about talking about many times, you're waging the battle. It's about that success doesn't come easy and you need to be great with your consistent efforts. Success is not coming because there is some mistake or ill preparation which has happened, and you need certain qualities to be able to get success, right? Let's now understand with one more example. This again was the topic in the Abhyas, section B topic, okay? The pursuit of instant validation, creating a generation of restless minds. So, the pursuit of instant validation is creating a generation of restless minds. You have figured out your literal and metaphorical words. The pursuit of instant validation. Validation is an important word where there's a literal meaning and the metaphorical meaning. Creating a generation of restless minds. Restless minds as a phrase is important, of course, right? Now, what's the theme? What's the hidden meaning? What's the underlying essence? बोलना क्या चाह रहा है टॉपिक? तो बोलना ये चाह रहा है that the first theme or the first understanding is that in a way, because minds and validation and generation and restlessness, it points out towards social psychology and psychology, right? Because humans as social animal. So I'm not, of course, expecting that you should be knowing all the concepts of psychology or your optional should be psychology to be able to write an essay on it. I'm just trying to give you one hint that there's one hidden aspect, which is the social psychology or the psychology, because we have the words restless minds, generation, validation, right? These all are the psychological components of the human, you could say, nature. Then what does validation mean? If I'm asking for validation, why do I need validation? Because I'm insecure. So my insecurity is the hidden keyword here. And why am I insecure? Is it natural to be humans to be insecure? Yes. As humans, we tend to be insecure because we don't know our future. We can't predict our future. So it's natural to be insecure. But then there are other factors also, due to society, due to the class divide, due to the caste divide, and even gender divide. Women, or you could say the females, are comparatively tend to be more insecure. They are underconfident as compared to boys, right? So overall, I'm just, of course, generalizing, but I'm just trying to say that how you can think. So it was about validation, right? You do understand the meaning of the word validation, but then why do you seek validation? What's the feeling? The feeling is insecurity. So the theme here is insecurity, and when you hit on this, you will be able to come up with a lot of ideas, right? And then what's the other? Now, because I'm picked up the keywords to see what more themes I could generate, it's saying creating a generation of restless minds. Again, that's why I say that every word is important. Okay, this topic could be rephrased to remove this generation word. So pursuit of instant validation is creating a society of restless minds. But if the word generation is mentioned, I can come up with some arguments and some ideas. So generation, whenever we say generation, just Gen Z is in generation or the current generation. So simply it means what? Generation current, but just like empire of future, empire of past, I did what? That if it's talking about current, then what about the old generation? Did the old generations never needed validation? They were not insecure? No, they were insecure. Kings and queens from time immemorial have kept court officials who used to flatter them. They were the biggest insecure people present on the planet Earth. So they used to keep people with them in the, the courtiers and the court officials. They were who were actually, the work was to flatter them. Of course, nobody was doing it directly, but you do know that indirectly these things have been done, right? So they were also insecure. And then because I was mentioning kings and queens, I got an idea that Rasputin and the Empress Alexandra of the, this Empress Alexandra of the Romanov dynasty. So Russian Revolution reference, right? And then Rasputin. So Rasputin was doing the same thing, flattering, and ultimately it led to the downfall of the emperor and the empress of the Romanov dynasty of the Russian, and led to Russian Revolution, right? So can you see that when I start doing this, I'm getting so many ideas? Then restless mind. Why the mind is restless? It needs instant validation. So it needs instant gratification. Unless until when do you become restless? Unless until you have done that particular work, or maybe you have you have to study, or you're not able to achieve your goal, particular target, then you tend to become restless. So you need that gratification. You need that that feeling that I have done something, I've completed something. So that validation, that instant gratification, and instant gratification to opposite, you do know the concept of delayed gratification. So this is how you can connect ideas. Now when I'm asking you to do this, of course, again, I'm telling you, this all needs to be done in a quick manner. And I do understand that because I deal in essay, I have a lot of ideas in my mind. Maybe as a student who is, so much busy in doing GS and optional and all that, you might not come across all the ideas. Out of all this, even in the past, slide, out of all these ideas, even if you get two, three, you will ensure what? That first, you're not deviating from the topic, because when you have touched the core idea, the core theme, the essence of the topic, then you will never deviate from the topic. Because while writing, I have noticed many students, while writing their body content, they tend to deviate. And they do, why? Because they don't know, the theme is not in their mind, they're focused on the word battle. So battle ko explain karte karte pata nahi kahan pahunch jayenge. It's not about the battle, it's about the consistent efforts. It's about that success doesn't come easy. It's about that you are prone to making mistakes and be ill prepared when you go first time into the battle, right? The first time you're writing means you're totally lost. So that's just, the understanding of this. Similarly, for this particular topic also, sorry. Okay, so this particular topic also, the validation part. So even if you're not able to come up with all these ideas, at least if you do this, this, and this, you're good to go. Even if it doesn't cross your mind that, oh, I don't know about psychology, I don't know about social psychology, I don't know these concepts, it's fine. Okay, so even 2, 3 will help you stay on track. It will avoid deviation, and you will be able to, the second benefit is that you will be able to generate multiple ideas. Because otherwise you feel sometimes, you're stuck. Ideas नहीं आ रहे दिमाग में, क्या लिखूं और क्या कर सकता हूं या और क्या कर सकती हूँ. So you have to do this, and again this part needs to be done quickly. Please don't waste your time कि क्या theme है, because you have to, of course, ultimately generate the ideas. The brainstorming needs to be done. Now there's again a very common mistake which I have observed when you are using your examples. When you have brainstormed, okay, and you're writing the examples, you tend to pick up anything. You have to understand what's the tone of the topic, right? The tone means that does the topic hints towards individual, human endeavor, human quality, human mistake, does it point out towards that, or does it has a hint of collectiveness? Or if it's talking about maybe some topic based out of society or civilization, forest precedes civilization and deserts follow them, or you have social justice wala topic. So you need to understand the tone also. Why? Because once you figure it out that the topic is mainly focused on human or the individual aspect, individual personality based example needs to come first. Why you want to start an essay topic or your body content discussion with an example of a country when the topic is expecting you to focus on the individual personality based example? Of course, you can use the country or the collective example from society, country examples, international perspective, but then you will place it towards the later part of the body content. Not in the first two paragraphs of the body content, I need to see an example based out of country when the topic is about human or the human quality, human perspective. So how will you understand that if the topic is individual or collective? Let's understand it through some examples. So this is again one very common quote, and I have given it multiple times in my essay test. I really love this quote. So he who has a why to live can bear anyhow. This again, I told you that we will be focusing that through this exercise, if some quotes you are able to remember, and that's why I mentioned the name also. So this is given by Friedrich Nietzsche, and he who has a why to live can bear anyhow. Don't you think that the topic itself has a hint? He who has a why to live. Yes. So in a way, start with examples of the personalities who have shown that because they have a why, they have a purpose, they have a goal to achieve, they were able to bear any kind of situation. This anyhow is together. Anyhow मतलब कैसे भी करके survive किया because they had a goal. Not it's how. This why and how is not the same thing. This how is not by कैसे, it's anyhow, कैसे भी करके, जैसे हिंदी में बोलते हैं ना, कैसे भी करके बस एग्जाम निकालो. That's anyhow. Bear anyhow. कुछ भी सह के, कुछ भी तकलीफ सह के एग्जाम निकालो. So that's what the topic is. Chaho to, like, what you can do in the actual exam, please convert it into your mother tongue, whatever language you're comfortable in. कोशिश करो ट्रांसलेट कर लो, उससे भी कभी कभी बहुत सारे आइडियाज आ जाते हैं, ठीक है. But of course, you have to stick to the English translation only. So, he who has a why to live can bear anyhow. The tone is, of course, individual. Then, in matters of conscience, the law of the majority has no place. It is said by Mahatma Gandhi. Again, I think it's a topic from either Abhyas or some other test series. Okay. Commonly opted by the students. That's why I think, yes, it's Abhyas only. So, in matters of conscience, the law of the majority has no place. Now, you will be confused that this consigns to individual pe tone hai, individual ka hint hai, right? And then it's saying the law of the majority. So yes, this topic or this example is a perfect example of that both will come. It's not or, it's and. So both individual examples and collective examples from society, from national perspective can come in, because the topic is giving you hint like that. But in this, if I want to talk about Japan, how they were able to survive through any situation, even after the World War II and the bombing and all that, Nagasaki, Hiroshima, things. And that would, of course, I will place it not as my first example in my essay, but maybe towards the end, that extrapolating this to the nation or the country perspective, we have example of a great nation like Japan who was able to survive even after those bombings, because they had a why to live, they had a purpose to make their country again, right? Makes sense. But don't write Japan as the first example. So in the matters of conscience, the law of the majority has no place. Both can come. Again, please be careful. So when you're brainstorming your examples, please think of individual personalities and these kind of examples also. I have seen students, especially of certain optionals, they tend to pick up ideas more from their optional. It's not wrong, but please try to balance it out. If the topic is individual based, I don't want to have a look at just countries example. Okay, or vice versa for that matter. There was one topic, I think, on something on peace and shared economic interest, and it was written from the perspective of like on the individuals. No, that topic was hinting out towards the trade between the countries, and it is a precursor to peace. So the topic meant that if you're having good trade between the countries or the regions, you will not wage war. So here, you do understand that sometimes you will also get topics which are just focusing on the collective. Then don't bring in individual personalities. This topic is a perfect example of that both can come depending on how you're discussing. So it says that in matters of conscience to individual ka hi hai, but then that is why the law of majority has no place. So even the societal conscience, the law of majority should not be followed. If the law of majority would be followed, then the minority will not be able to sustain, right? So that's what the idea is. So write examples accordingly where individual perspective is required. Focus on personalities more, where collective bring in countries, societal, okay, those kind of perspectives. Now, another common mistake I would say, or I've recently observed, is that sorry, students writing less number of words. Now, nobody has got the time to count your words in the actual exam, but an experienced evaluator always knows, always understands that the student has written less content. If you are giving that impression that you have written less content, you're not giving them the opportunity to actually give you higher score. Kam likhoge, kam number paoge. Simple analogy hai, right? So you can't write less. What is the word range? And UPSC has given you 200 word ka, range, 1000 to 1200. So they're not asking you to go for 1200, but they're also not asking you to limit yourself under 1000 words. So what is the ideal range? 1050 to 1150. Okay, if we go by the space provided in the question come answer booklet, you are exactly given 11 full pages front and back, like 1 2 3 4. Okay, that way 11 pages, and that half page where the first half of that particular first page is occupied by the topics, right? If you haven't seen your question come answer booklet, you can download it from the upsc.gov.in, from the official website. There you have those model question come answer booklets. So your first page is actually occupied by the 4 topics of your section. That half page please utilize. I've seen many students not starting their essay from there. No, please don't commit that mistake, because if the space is limited in the exam, in the question come answer booklet, every space should be properly utilized. So even that half space, you can start your introduction from there. Why you want to leave that space? So effectively, you get 11 and a half pages. Whatever is your handwriting, I don't care. At least try and touch 10 plus page of write up. It could be 10 and a half. It could be the entire, it could be 10, like, maybe something written on the 11th page, so that it doesn't give an impression that you have left a lot of space and you don't have ideas. If you're giving that impression that you don't have ideas, you don't have much content, the marks will be given less. And trust me, this is happening. There are many students who are just writing 8, 9 pages, barely touching even 10 pages. So word wise, you can also have a limit. If you're more comfortable, please count your words of whatever essays that you have written, either through test series, through your own self practice. Count the words, have a range of 1050 to 1150, at least in between you should be there, right? If that's not the case, at least try and fill up the pages, don't leave the pages. And students who have especially very big font size of writing, I would recommend, not at the cost of presentation, but do concise your handwriting, or do concise the font. If you're writing large, large fonts and large, it's a big handwriting, then of course you are consuming a lot of space to give one small idea. And effectively, if I see that there is just 3 or 4 ideas, I don't feel like giving higher score. How is it possible? Because then it will be unfair for that particular person who has written a lot of ideas. So that is why the word range is given. That is why you have fixed pages on model question come answer booklet. Please try to follow that. And trust me on this, the evaluator, he is so experienced, they are so experienced, they will be able to guess that you have written less. And less written material, less marks. True? So, not covering adequate ideas and examples, please cover the sufficient pages and space, and don't leave a lot of space between sentences and paragraphs. I have seen many students deliberately, leaving a lot of space between the two sentences, between when they're changing the one paragraph to another paragraph. Please don't do so. See, the evaluator knows that you're playing around, okay? So, you can't fool the evaluator. You can fool yourself, you can't fool the UPSC evaluator, because if you are trying to fool them, they will fool you and they will give you less score. So we will not do that, right? Okay. Let's move on. Let's move on to the next part. Yes. Also, this is a very common mistake, and I'm sure you will be doing all of that. Not, of course, as a compulsion thing, but I'm just saying it happens. Why? Because in the last few days, just before your essay exam, like this in these days, 18, 19, 20, 21st, what you'll be doing? You'll try and revise your GS. True? And any particular GS subject that you are revising, there is the probability that you're going to use more examples in your essay from there. So it has happened with, rank 5 Ruhani. And in her initial attempt, she revised world history, I think 2, 3 days before the exam, world history and post independence. And she used more of examples from there, world history and post independence. The problem is not with using examples from world history or post independence, or for history for that matter. The problem is that you're using all examples from one particular subject. Where is the multi-dimensional, or where is the variety of examples? I don't want to have a look at just history examples unless the topic is talking about history, right? So please use diversity in ideas, diversity in arguments, diversity in examples. And yes, you can take reference from world history post independence, but whatever you are revising in the last few days, don't let your essay on 22nd be influenced by whatever subject you are revising. Okay, please be cautious of this. It happens, and that is why, apart from the session, the other sessions, the other recordings that you'll get, the focus is to actually give you some differentiated content which is not overlapping with GS, right? Okay, so please be careful of that. No just history means that you can use history, world history, governance, environment examples and all that, but don't just use history, don't just use world history, don't just use post independence, don't just use polity. I've seen students talking and bringing in constitution even in those topics jahan pe relevant hai hi nahi. So please check the relevancy and suitability of whatever you're writing. Okay, Diverse and balance is what you need to remember. Then also, again, one more common mistake is that you are overusing any one particular element, right? Either if you're good with books, then you will bombard the usage of books. If you're good with quotes, you will write every paragraph with a quote. If you're good with thinkers, you have revised ethics thinkers and you have your optional thinkers ready with you, you're just going to write every, thinker in your essay. Don't do that. Don't overuse anything. Essay is all about balance. Essay is all about balance. What you need to do is that books maybe 2 to 3. 3 is also when maybe the topic is like that, where you have good references of thinkers and book references, but don't overdo it. I don't want to read what the authors and the various books have been talking about that particular topic. I want to understand what is your understanding. Yes, while giving that understanding and interpretation, you're using to justify that, okay, I am not the only person who's saying this. There are concerns raised by this particular book or this particular author in their book, and makes sense. But don't write the entire essay on the shoulders of those books and authors. That's not what UPSC is aiming for or looking for, right? So your understanding, your analysis has to be written in the essay. Of course, at few places you will use ideas, quotes of others, experts, thinkers to justify the argument that whatever you're saying is not so revolutionary. It has been, like, said by experts. It is something that need to be applied in the society. Okay, right? So balance. So don't overdo anything. Even for that matter, I would say don't go for even 2 to 3. I am so scared. Actually, I won't tell you. Don't go for, like, go for just 1 and 2. Don't go for even 2 and 3. Like, for three books mentioned in an essay looks very weird. So 1 to 2, even movies for that matter, I would say 1. Mythology references 1. Don't overdo anything. Balance is the key over here, right? Then again, a lot of common mistakes like this and many students are doing, and I understand that while writing, the focus is on the content and how to present that content, and you're not really working on these aspects or these mistakes. You don't want to deliberately make it, but then you need to be cautious not to do it, right? So I understand that it happens, but then you have to be cautious that you're not doing it deliberately, or at least stop yourself when you feel that you have done it multiple times in the essay. So it should not be that your mistakes are getting repeated over the every page. At least 1 2 places it has happened, it's okay. Be cautious that you're not repeating it. What I'm trying to say is that framing simple short sentences, once or twice your sentence has gotten quite long because there were too many things to be written, or maybe in the way of expression only the sentence became long. That's fine, but then don't deliberately frame such long sentences that one sentence equals to one paragraph, or the one sentence by usage of so many commas and ands has become a long paragraph, consuming the entire space, if not the entire, at least 3/4 space. So you need to be careful that frame simple short sentences, and especially people with language problem, language skills are compromised. Please frame short sentences. You will minimize your grammatical mistakes. You will minimize, the legibility or the understanding issues. And what you will do is that you will actually give an opportunity to the evaluator to be able to understand through those small sentences that what you're trying to convey, what idea you're writing. So please do this, and this is even for the people who are good in language skills. Still, I would say simple short sentence, aiming for ease of reading for the evaluator. The moment you put yourself in the shoes of the evaluator, the moment you're not writing your paper just to do a shoddy job and complete the paper and expect to get a rank 1, you put yourself in the shoes of evaluator, because your evaluator is going to check a lot of copies. You need to understand, and it's a life lesson. Where there's a crowd, you need to see that what extra needs to be done to stand out of the crowd. So if 14,000 plus people are writing mains, and if your evaluator is checking so many copies, that particular copy written by you needs to give him ease of reading. It should not trouble him. He has to complete some targets. He has to evaluate certain copies. And if you're troubling him, he will not take the trouble to read your essay. He will just give you average score. And that is why Through that only we can justify people getting into 60s and 70s and 80s. Your essay was not read by the evaluator, because if he had read it and you have written good content, they will give you marks. So if you're scoring less than 100, please ensure that these small aspects are also important. Don't frame long sentences. He is not obligated to read and understand what you're trying to project in a complex way. He is not your student. You are a student. You have to simplify things. You have to ensure that while I read or while anybody reads your essay, it should be read in one go. I get a very common concern by students that when they have a look at the toppers copies of essay, they tend to feel that nothing great or nothing different was written. Yes, it's never about what unique you could write. It's about whatever you're writing, how well you're writing it, and how that particular parameter of ease of reading is ensured. You have to make your evaluator's life easy. If by your write-up you are making his life difficult, he will make your life difficult by giving you less scores. And trust me on this is happening. And that is why I also say that not just simple short sentences, but even this flowery jargon-based language, too many complex words. Kyun? Why? I know Indian Administrative Services is an elite exam and an elite status, but nobody is checking your Oxford level, writing skills or your, such hi-fi Shashi Tharoor level language skills. Nobody is bothered by it. And nobody actually working as an evaluator is actually focused or want to see complex things being written, because his target is what? To complete maybe 10, 15, 20 copies of evaluation in a day. And if you're making the life difficult, he is not able to achieve that target. He is going to indirectly penalize you. If not direct, indirect penalization तो होगा ही कहीं ना कहीं से. So indirect means of course क्या marks ही काटेंगे और क्या कर सकते हैं, nothing else, but yes marks ही काटेंगे. So marks काटने का फिर वो वजह दे देंगे that the essay was not proper or whatever. However, the opaque, the evaluation process is opaque. We don't know what's happening behind those closed doors. So we are not going to commit any mistake. ठीक है, ये सारी बेसिक चीजें हैं, बट ट्रस्ट मी ऑन दिस, इससे बहुत इम्पैक्ट पड़ता है. Avoid using too many commas, avoid flowery jargon based language. One paragraph needs to have at least 2 to 3 sentences minimum. Don't go for that one paragraph equals to one long sentence. No, that's not how the paragraphs or the essay needs to be written. You need to at least have 2 to 3 sentences. You're in the habit of writing 4 sentences, okay, but I'm just saying this is for me the minimum criteria. Maximum is what you have written and whatever evaluation you have got, and accordingly again don't write 5-6 sentences, because then again the paragraph will become long. So 2 to 3, maximum 4 to 5, that's what the idea should be. And every page, every page should have at least 2 to 2.5 para, not more than that, not less than that. So या तो distinct 1-2 para होना चाहिए, या फिर ये भी हो सकता है that when you have this page, when you're writing this, then the second paragraph and then maybe the third paragraph slightly starts. So this is your first paragraph, this is your second paragraph, and this is the third paragraph, which maybe 2-3 lines you were able to write, and then you're shifting. So that is why this 2.5. Okay, okay, I hope you understood this. Okay, let's so this is the lesson. Aim for ease of reading. Okay, I think we are beyond past 1 hour. Okay, just give me a moment. Okay, so now we will discuss and pick up few things, okay, like few aspects of the essay writing. The first aspect is brainstorming. Before that I was discussing all the common mistakes. Now the brainstorming, which is very important, and everyone does it. I know you're beyond that point where you're not doing brainstorming. Everybody is doing it, but I can see a lot of difference in people who are doing adequate brainstorming and people who are doing it just for the sake of it. Just a superficial brainstorming with just few ideas being written on a rough page, that's not called brainstorming. Don't do it. You have to do it in a proper way, because the skeleton that you're framing while doing the brainstorming, will help you write a good essay. If your skeleton, if your framework is weak, if your scaffolding is weak, the building will come down, right? So you have to do it adequate. What's an adequate framework? Of course, it should have some ideas. It should also have the sequence of ideas. Don't just generate arguments and ideas, also see its placement. Where will this idea come? Should I write it as the first paragraph or the second paragraph, or should I write it as my, in between the body content? Is it a counter argument, which of course should be placed towards the end of the essay? So see the placement of the ideas also. This will be done, of course, when you're done with the brainstorming. Just take a quick look and take few seconds to just number it out, right? So ideas, but also sequence of ideas, and check for diverse examples. I gave you the hint that your essay should have diverse examples. If it's from individual perspective, please bring in individual personalities, and you want to extrapolate it to Japan or to other any in the country for that matter, South Korea or Singapore or Malaysia or whatever. That's your call, Scandinavian countries. But then ensure that the diverse examples are there. Include introduction and conclusion. Extract ideas from the brainstorming portion itself. Please brainstorm your introduction and conclusion too. Many people miss out on that, and that's why your introduction and conclusion is very important. While evaluating or while reading the essay, the first thing that I'm going to read is what? Your introduction. And if you have not written a good, impressive introduction, then what's the purpose, right? What's the benefit? So, good introduction, right? But you will not start thinking, you will not start your brainstorming process from the introduction perspective. You will first generate all the relevant ideas, you will generate all the relevant examples, and then from there, if you want to extract the introduction, okay, that this example, if elaborated, can be my introduction. True. And similarly, the conclusion, what you're going to write in conclusion, and conclusion is not just one paragraph to conclude and just summarize it. No, conclusion also has some separate ideas and separate content. So extract all this when you have brainstormed. So introduction and conclusion should be done at the later part of the brainstorming, but it should be done, and you will not miss it out. You have to do it. Don't think that लिखते लिखते guess कर लूंगा या लिखते लिखते सोच लूंगी क्या करना है. That's not how it works. बाद का टाइम नहीं आता. चीजें प्लान करनी पहले कर लो. Take your 15-20 minutes to brainstorm. So 20 minutes is your deadline, I would say, because whatever you have brainstormed in 20 minutes, you need 1 hour 10 minutes to write. So 20 minutes per topic. अच्छा 20 का 22 minutes हो गया, don't start panicking. 22 का 25 हो गया, also don't panic. But at least इसके beyond नहीं जाना है. So 20 minutes का दिमाग में एक टाइमर होना चाहिए कि 17-18 minutes पे दिमाग बोलने लगे कि now you have to wrap up your brainstorming. Okay, and that is for each of the topic. Now it depends on how you actually do, because you have to write 2 essays. So you do the brainstorming for both the essays in one go, or you do it one by one. That's your call. I hope you have attempted some FLTs. Of course, the students who are part of my test series, you have attempted some FLTs. So whatever is the process that you have been following, please continue doing that. But then you have to do brainstorming for both the essays, and for every particular essay, I would say don't take time beyond 20-25 minutes. 25 minutes is literally the outermost limit. If you've got a very difficult topic, you cannot step twice in the same river, you're not able to understand, or maybe you chose a topic which you thought ki acha theek hai, I'll be able to write, but then the ideas are not coming into your mind. That's understandable, but then 20 is the limit. Please keep an eye out over the watch. Right, include introduction. So check presence of your broader 4-5 arguments. This is your brainstorming sheet mein. You have to check the presence of broader 4-5 arguments. You have to also include the counter argument or the parallel narrative. That means sometimes the topic gives you the possibility to explore a counter perspective. Please write it down. Please brainstorm it. Please include it in your essays if the topic gives you the possibility, because it leads to a good impression. It tells that the person writing the essay is a learned person, is a person with a lot of proper variety of ideas. And parallel narrative is simply that that you're just trying to say that something other or some other narrative or some other argument or some other idea also exists, which is maybe the other side of the coin. It could be counter, it could be something which is just as you're saying that this is valid, but this is also valid because maybe empathy, compassion asks us to follow that. Brainstorm, quotes, books, thinkers, all creative elements Don't think that I'll be able to, while writing, something will come into my mind. No, whatever book, thinker, philosopher, expert, movie reference, poems, whatever quotes, whatever you want to write, please at least, have a hint ready that, okay, I'll use this poem. Okay, I'll use this quote. So you have to arrange, right? And all that is what? Adding cherry to your cake. So all the creative elements is adding cherry to the cake, and that's how you brainstorm. Don't just brainstorm random ideas and random examples, social, political, economic. That's not how it's going to work. Properly brainstorm the arguments, how you're decoding the topic. Take help of the theme, take help of the literal and metaphorical interpretation of the words, right? Frame some questions, decode the topic, break it down, try to analyze at what the topic is trying to say, use the examples and like write those examples, brainstorm, and that's how your brainstorming sheet should look like. Okay, the more filled up your brainstorming sheet is, the better your essay would be. Trust me on this. Now, this is something that I'm trying to given like this is what I realized, I would say. Of course, it's too generic, like it's too generalized, but then just to give you an idea, that in the recent years what I've observed is that you get two kind of topics, right? Majorly there are two types of topics that you get. The first one is which gives you possibility of easily writing 3 to 4 arguments and also counter argument. Maybe that topic, you see that in section A and section B, that there's some topic which has multiple words, and you're able to think that I could be able to generate 3 4 diverse ideas, and even there's a possibility of counter argument, there's a counter perspective to that particular topic. And that's the first category. And what are the examples? The examples are from the last year: nearly all men can stand adversity, but to test the character, give him power, right? So this is the first phrase is talking about the adversity, that all men can stand adversity. The human, the human nature or human life is, you could say, they can, stand adversities and challenges. But if you really want to test the character, give him power. So power is that particular, element or entity which can be used to test the character of an individual. And usually you can bring in political leaders and, all those examples. And then you can also say that sometimes power is not the only thing, there are other ways to test the character, whatever is your counter argument and whatever are the ideas. So sometimes you choose a topic or you have a topic which gives you the possibility to explore multiple arguments and multiple ideas and examples. Again, this one also, a society that has more justice is a society that needs less charity. So even because you're talking about justice, तो justice में ही climate, मतलब social economic justice तो आ ही गया, political justice आ गया. Even now you're able to write climate justice, and then you're talking about that if the society has these all elements of justice present, it doesn't need charity, right? So that's the first category. Now the second category, some topics don't give you possibility of multiple arguments, hence one part and phrase is discussed with lot of examples. So sometimes the topic is quite small, it's just you do understand the topic, but you feel that at the first instance itself, you feel that I'll not be able to generate a lot of ideas. And of course, it's not that you have a choice, because out of all those, maybe in that particular section, out of all 4 topics, that topic is where you have the content, you feel at least I'll be able to write something, I'll be able to do justice to the topic, and that's why you have to choose the topic. So still no worries, ऐसा नहीं कि इस टाइप के टॉपिक्स के नंबर कट जाते हैं, but then you will be particularly careful that if you're falling into the second category, then some topics don't give you possibility. So what you need to do is that take out the phrases and discuss with a lot of examples. And there, if you want to use pestle, individual, social, or different kind of ideas, try and bring it over there, right? So variety, phrase is same, but then to justify that phrase, you pick up examples from multiple perspectives and dimensions, and you tend to write that. But at least ensure in such kind of topics, minimum 3 arguments should be there. 3 major arguments, either one and second from the same topic, and third one is maybe the balance, the medium path, or maybe what could be done, or you have to bring all of that together, or maybe a counter perspective that it's not easy for humans to decide. Whatever you want to bring, minimum at least 3 arguments you should ensure. So let's take the example: philosophy of wantlessness is utopian, materialism is chimera. So here you do understand that the topic is just getting divided into 2 parts: philosophy of wantlessness, and it's an utopian idea, And having feeling or having the this materialism is also chimera. That means it's also going to give you deception and illusion. So two major ideas. So when you're justifying this part, philosophy of modernist utopian, of course, you will be picking up various thinkers and experts and examples where you want to say that a desireless life is not, possible, or it's a very, idealistic idea. And for humans, it's not possible. It's only possible for certain people who have maybe, they have renounced the world like Buddha, that's those kind of examples. And then for materialism also. Similarly, last year you also got this topic, cost of doing nothing is greater than cost of being wrong, right? So cost of doing nothing is greater than cost of being wrong. Again, the topic can be divided into two simple parts. Cost of doing nothing is greater than cost of being wrong. So that means cost of doing nothing is your first idea. That means inaction will lead to consequences. It will lead to certain cost that you will have to pay, but that cost is going to be always greater than cost of being wrong. So if you have taken action but that actions come out to be wrong, the result comes out to be wrong for that action, you're definitely paying a price but that price is going to be less than the cost of inaction. So again, you understood there is a difference between these kind of topics, right? As far as possible, if there's a possibility to choose these kind of examples, these kind of essay topics, you will have a lot of variety of ideas and examples to write about in the exam. If you're not able to do justice, or you're not able to actually choose such kind of topic, then when you're choosing this, ensure that you are discussing each part, and when you're dividing it to major phrases, cost of doing nothing, within that try and frame some sub arguments. Inaction, why people decide not to take any action, what is the cost, is it always possible to pay a cost for doing nothing? Sometimes doing nothing means that you are biding your time, you are being patient, and patience is a virtue. I hope you get the idea, right? So this is how you need to frame multiple arguments. You will get sub arguments and examples, but don't just break the topic into two parts and start justifying that cost of doing nothing. Okay, politically cost of doing nothing, then socially cost of doing nothing, then environmentally cost of doing nothing, then technologically cost of doing nothing. Don't do that. In between also frame some arguments. Why inaction? Why people don't take the call to action? Why they are afraid of it? Or but then definitely they'll be paying a price. How much is the price? Sometimes not taking an action is also beneficial. Not waging a war against any country is also beneficial in the long run. So what decides that inaction is bad or good? Like, these kind of discussions. And then of course, but there are most of the times in life that as humans we will not be able to predict that what our actions will be, whatever be the result or the outcomes of our action. It could be good or bad, because sometimes the outcomes are not in our control. So in that scenario, taking an action is always recommended, and that's why the bureaucracy, or in various you could say through experts, or through, you could say, religious philosophies and all that, the law of karma, all the nishkam karma and all that, that the aim is to be dutiful, and Kant's duty ethics and all. Try and use these ideas. So can you see that, yes, the topic is getting divided into two parts, but I'm not making that, okay, first part is cost of doing nothing, and then cost of being wrong, and then I'm done with my essay. Within that also, I have various ideas to discuss. Okay, so majorly you have these kind of topics. Please be careful when you're choosing this. The last one is not all who wander are lost. So even in these kind of abstract topics, you tend to do this, that you divide the topic through socially, not all who wander are lost, politically, not all wanderings are wrong, socially, or sorry, economically, not all wanderings are wrong. Don't do that, okay? That's not how the essay needs to be written in the present times. Now, when you're brainstorming, this is something that I'm just dropping an idea. If you're not comfortable, if you have your own set of ideas, if you have own set of, that means the process of brainstorming, please follow that. If you haven't, I'm just trying to give you a little bit of consolidated or arranged way of doing the brainstorming. So preferably on the rough sheet that you're getting attached with your question come answer booklet, please do this work of making the arguments, that first argument, second argument, third argument, cost of being wrong, then second argument is, or the cost of doing nothing, so why inaction, then the third argument is maybe that, but always it is, that we can't decide or we can't predict what are the results are. So sometimes taking action is the best way to go for. And what if we don't take action, we pay a greater price, those kind of four, five arguments, right? That's how you do. And then of course the examples. So what I'm trying to convey is, however or whatever way you brainstorm, I should be able to see, or you should be able to write few distinct arguments and separate the examples. Your examples are not your arguments and ideas, right? So please make a distinct separation between the two. If you're brainstorming examples, good, do it separately, but your arguments also needs to be there. I hope you're getting the arguments, the meaning of the arguments, the questions that we pose. Just like I was trying to give you that, okay, what's the cost of not doing nothing, why people don't want to take action. These are my examples, and these are my arguments, and when I'm writing these arguments, I'll have relevant examples to justify those arguments. That, okay, cost of being inactive or not taking an action, or sometimes why people are afraid to take action because of fear, because of lack of courage, because of sometimes bystander effect. It's easy to watch, right? So bystander effect comes in the example and the analysis part. I hope you're getting the difference. If not, please don't worry. Just ensure that in the exam, your page, your brainstorming sheet should not just look like a collection of different examples. It should have some bit of questioning and arguments too. That's the real basic thing that I'm asking you to follow. Okay, not changing a lot of your strategy at the last moment. Right now, for examples, you can do what you like, what reference you can take. I always say take your references from GS 1 to 4 syllabus, right? So here your GS 1 to 3 syllabus is arranged. You have history, geography, society, culture, socio-political issues, governance concepts, tribal, vulnerable sections, international relations concepts, examples of countries, economy, poverty, inclusive growth, ecology, environmental issues, security things, social media and media, examples of disaster, right? These are the broader topics under which, of course, you are learning a lot of ideas through your GS syllabus coverage, and you can write and use them in the essay. So GS 1 to 3 syllabus, plus you can also try the stakeholder perspective. So individual, society, national, international. So he who has a why to live can bear anyhow. I'll have more examples from individual, but then somebody whose purpose is to live and maybe the purpose is to serve the society, then of course society will also get benefited. So you can generate ideas from this perspective also, individual, society, national, international. My only request is, whenever you're writing something in your essay, please don't use from the societal perspective, from the economy perspective, from the international perspective, or from the individual perspective, from the national perspective, from the societal perspective, from the economy perspective, from the agriculture perspective, from the environmental perspective. Don't start your essay paragraphs with these. If you're writing an example of climate change or environmental destruction, when you're writing it, by default, your reader, your evaluator will be able to understand that the example is from constitution, that example is from environment. You don't have to mention constitutionally, politically. If you're trying to talk about criminalization of politics, in itself hints about the political dimension. You don't have to specifically write from the political perspective, the criminalization of politics. Be mindful of what you're writing, because doing this, see, it's not wrong, but it's not going to leave a good impression, and impression matters a lot in essay. Trust me on this. Essay and ethics, these two papers are giving you the possibility to actually showcase your personality. And if you're showcased through your writing that you don't deserve to an IS and IPS officer or in the services, then of course they're not going to give you marks, and that's why people are scoring less in these papers also. Okay, so you can follow this, but don't start your essay or paragraph with individual perspective, political perspective, environmental perspective. You have GS4 syllabus, earlier GS 1 to 3, then you have GS4 syllabus. You have thinkers from Aristotle to Socrates to Plato to John Mills to John Rawls to Kant to Marx to Weber to, so many people are there already that you learn from ethics. Please use your ethics knowledge. And that's why I have given out a tip also, that on 20th evening, preferably try and revise your ethics so that your thinkers quotes and all those ideas you're able to like revise from the notes from the ethics syllabus. Okay, now you also have moral codes. You have Purushartha concept, you have seven sins of Gandhi, you have Gandhiji's talisman, you have religious moral codes, Nishkam karma and all that. Okay, that is there. Then you have value systems that basically we read from the civil services point of view, that what values a human or a civil servant should have. So integrity, compassion, fortitude, prudence, perseverance, consistency, conscience, all those values and all that. So you can use those values to write your essay also if the topic demands it, right? Then you can bring in psychology. You do read about emotional intelligence, you do read about aptitude and attitude. So you can bring in, you have heard of Maslow, Abraham Maslow's theory. If you haven't, then at least do Google it out, do read it. It's a very relevant theory, because through that theory you can justify a lot of ideas you can use in a lot of variety of essay. So Abraham Maslow's hierarchy of needs is the one concept that you can use in a lot of examples and essays. Please read about it if you don't already know. Revise it if you know it. Then you have Freud, Sigmund Freud, right? So if you know these people, if you know their concepts, you can use them. And even terminology. So cognitive biases like confirmation bias, hindsight bias, broken window theory, slippery slope, self-actualization. You have these kind of terminologies. Please use them in your essays. Okay. So through your GS4, if you revise it, you'll be able to generate a lot of different ideas. And I would recommend that please use your GS4 knowledge more than GS1 to 3 knowledge to write your philosophical essay. Your philosophical essay is not about GS perspective only. It's about the essence, the ethics behind it, the codes behind it, the morality and the ethical aspect behind it, the value system behind it, right? He who has a why to live can bear almost anyhow. It talks about what? It talks about the purpose, the desire to live in spite of all challenges. So you will be able to justify it when you have value systems in place, when you have that compassion, the service to humanity, the resilience. All these value systems of humans will help him. He who has a why to live can bear almost anyhow. So use these ideas. So actually your GS4 syllabus ideas can be used in a lot better way than your GS1 to 3 ideas. Okay, so you can use all of this. Then the unconventional approach, that means some different ideas or different creative elements that you can use is, you can bring in mythology, you can bring in fiction and non-fiction works. Fiction works in the sense, the famous novels, Charles Dickens ke novels hain, ya fir you have even Harry Potter reference you can give, no problem in that. So there are many, like old ones to hai hi, or new ones of course are there. And non-fiction, of course, you have many Atomic Habits and Sapiens and Nexus, Yuval Noah Harari ka, and you have many such non-fiction works available. If you are good with it, good, you can revise your own stuff. I will be taking up a mini session on revising some basic books and their ideas and takeaways. So if you're interested, you can watch that, and then you'll be sort of revising it and you'll be able to use it in the exam. Okay. And then movie references also, but movie references, please don't use commercial Bollywood movies. It's about critically acclaimed movies with a social message. So use Dangal or Toilet or Manji the Mountain Man, those kind of Hindi movies also, from, I would say, from outside or from Hollywood for that matter. Critically acclaimed movies like, you have 12 Years as a Slave, you have The Help, you have, Schindler's List. So these kind of examples, again, I will be revising all these things in one of these sessions. Okay. Just a moment. Okay, now also please avoid certain examples unless until the topic really expects you to put it over there. So don't mention government schemes. Okay, I have come across many students writing government schemes in the conclusion because they think if they are suggesting some steps and solutions, then they have to bring in what government is doing. Yes, you have to bring in what government is doing because government is an important stakeholder, but it's not about listing of the schemes. Write the ethos, the essence, the idea, the vision behind those schemes. Most of the schemes are about the empowerment. It's about the human capital formation. It's about reaping the demographic dividend. It's not about different schemes for education. It's about capability approach, developing the capability of the people. Don't give a man fish, teach him how to fish. That's what the concept is. So don't mention and list down the government schemes, but what is the philosophy behind those schemes? Social justice through equal opportunity. When you're creating some livelihood schemes, when you're, Manrega and all those, whatever. So what you're trying to ensure? You're trying to ensure social justice, and you're trying to actually bring in the opportunities to the people. Skill development, it's about capability approach, right? So don't list out all those skill development programs and schemes and initiatives. Talk about that the government is focusing through multitude of schemes with the aim to skill develop the people as per the Amartya Sen concept of capability approach. That's how you're supposed to write it. If I need schemes, it's already expected for you to write on the GS papers. I don't want essay paper to be filled with schemes, right? So it leaves a very bad impression. Don't do that unless until by chance you get a topic to write on particular scheme, maybe women issues and the government's approach. Then of course list down few, schemes. I'm sure that kind of topic you will not get in the present trends of those things, right? So you have to follow this. Then avoid climate change and AI unless topic demands. And I am really, really, sort of tired of seeing this, that deliberately you tend to write about climate change and the impact of AI and the concerns and threats of AI, even if the topic doesn't demand it, unless the topic is about the perils of science and technology, unless the topic is about comparison or the, how humans are destructing the environment. It's a direct topic on climate change. Just like last year, you had forests precede civilizations and deserts follow them. That's, of course, about the destruction of environment. Please bring environmental destruction concepts in that topic. But if the topic is way different, you don't have to extrapolate everything to climate change and AI. Yes, I am taking away one major example from your kitty of ideas, I know. But whenever in the default mode, you think of writing climate change and AI, please stop yourself and think, do I have a better, relevant, more suitable example ready with me? And I'm sure you will be having. It's just that we don't tend to think about it. Trust me on this. Writing climate change and writing an AI, example in the topic which is talking about something way different is, it's not going to give you high scores. These are really minute mistakes that you make, but it really, really impacts your score. And then you wonder that I was doing everything good. I was writing a proper essay. I had written the IBC structure. I followed. I completed both of my essays. I wrote quotes also. But what about these things? You're writing a quote on climate change when the topic is talking about something else, right? So do see the suitability of things and then write it. And no patriotism and no, jingoism, please. No Operation Sindoor and India Pak rhetoric. Okay, I am really, and I'm telling you, it's not just about me. The people there, the UPSC validators, are not bothered by your patriotism and your reference of Operation Sindoor and all that. Unless until the topic was on India's defense or maybe as a nation, then the defense and these, ideas come in, and the comparison with the other, unfriendly or enemy states makes sense. If the topic is something, literally way different, you don't have to mention Op Sindoor and Pahalgam attacks and this and that, right? You are not going to impress your evaluator if you think that you're writing these stuff and that person is feeling very patriotic and will give you marks. Those people are way above those tricks. So those tricks are not working. Please don't use them. Okay. Then few ideas on introduction, and I think I really need to wrap up a little bit fast this entire session. Introduction, of course, what ideas you need to understand, like what things you need to keep in mind relevant to topic. It should justify whatever is your story, anecdote, whatever is the thing that you're writing in your introduction. It should feel relevant to topic. It should justify the entire topic, at least cover the holistic meaning. Sometimes I've seen people picking up one word battle or battle pe kuch likh diya introduction. Sometimes I've seen people picking up the word thinking and thought process of humans pe likh diya hai. No, it's about justifying. That introduction story should, as far as possible, should justify the entire topic, should deal with the holistic meaning of the entire topic, and as far as possible, avoid cliche stories like starting with Buddha, starting with Ashok, starting with Gandhi, right? As far as possible. Because if I'm reading, I don't know anything about you. Your copy is in front of me. I'm a UPSC validator. I'm starting to read the essay, and the first introduction that I'm reading is Ashok, Gandhi, Buddha, and 10,000 different people are writing the same thing. Why would I give you marks? It's not about the wrong thing, it's about that impression. If you're not doing something extra, I told you, na, it's about standing away from the crowd. What you are doing which will help you stand out. Is your writing good? Is your expression good? Is your interpretation good? Is, you have good content and conceptual understanding, you're able to present it well. You need to have some quality, na. You can't just do an average work and expect to top the exam. Okay, so standing a little bit of small efforts. I'm not saying कि पूरा हुलिया ही change कर देना ऐसे का, like मैं तो conclusion पहले लिख के आऊंगा because I've written something different. No, follow some basic rules, but then what kind of varieties, or what kind of you could say nudge you're giving to your evaluator to give you marks through your copy, right? So you have to actually nudge them, marks though. So you have to impress. So justify the entire topic and like avoiding the cliches. So if I'm having a common, example as an introduction, I'm like, okay, it's similar thing. Why should I give some extra marks? Okay, I'll give them 40, 60, 80, right? So, but there is a big but also, because sometimes I have seen that for certain topics, let him who would move the world first move himself. The cliche examples are the most relevant ones. Gandhi also did the same thing. He moved himself and then he thought of moving the world. Buddha also did the same thing. Ashok also did the same thing. He brought in changes himself and then started propagating Dhamma and all, right? So, if the topic demands, you can use the cliche references, but as far as possible, try and bring some newness and some freshness and some innovation in your introduction, okay? And you still have time. You are revising, you are going to, with me also, and SAB, when you're revising your GS syllabus, you have a lot of ideas, trust me. You don't just force your mind to think of a variety of ideas. That's the only thing, right? So choose the most relevant one for introduction anecdote. So between cliche and relevancy, I want you to go for relevancy and suitability, right? So if you think that Gautam Buddha Ashok is the most relevant introduction, do write it, right? Don't skip it, because you have still the body content and conclusion to write a different idea and to impress the evaluator. Okay, now introduction ways to make it interesting. Okay, so these are some tactics or some hacks and tips that I'm teaching you, so that even if you don't have a lot of unconventional and different kind of examples at this point of time, what you can do to make your simple example, simple introduction also stand out. So let's understand what are those strategies, what are those hacks. So think of unconventional or conventional but specific detailed filled anecdote. Okay, so if you have some unconventional example, good. But if you have some common, conventional, wahi Gandhi, Buddha likh rahe ho, then give some specific details. Maybe, just say there's one famous copy of Rahul Srivastav, he got, he scored 145 in essay. And there is one essay where he has used Savitri Bai Phule's, example. But till the end, he did not reveal that the story being said was of Savitri Bai Phule. And the way he narrated it had some specific details. The plague story was there, a child was there. So, these specific details, when you're writing some details, maybe the place, the time, the era, the names, right? So when you do give these specific details, you tend to make even a common example or common introduction stand out. So here the idea is that it's conventional, then give some specific details. Don't just write French Revolution and people revolted and all that. Who were the people? Who revolted against what dynasty? Who was the king and the queen? What was being happening? Bring those terms, fourth estates and fourth general and this and that and Maximilian Robespierre and reign of terror. Use these terminologies. Okay, make it specific. Make it specific by mentioning the time, timeline, era, names, places, whatever specific details you can fill in, because through this you can also make your common introduction uncommon. Then contrast and compare. And this is such a nice way I'm telling you. Pick up two common personalities and contrast and compare them as your introduction. Pick up two events from history, one from history, one from contemporary, and contrast and compare them, right? So let's understand what we can do. So the idea is contrast and compare events, like for example you can pick up examples from Holocaust and genocide versus the Gaza blockade which is happening right now. So one paragraph on the Holocaust or the genocide of the Jews which happened, and then the second paragraph in your introduction about the contemporary situation of Gaza blockade on. So, of course, depending on what's your theme and what's your topic, I'm just trying to tell you that whatever is the theme, you have to pick out that theme, and from that theme, if some events are matching to it, you can write those events. Okay, Spanish flu pandemic in 1900s, and then the COVID-19 pandemic in the the 2000s or the 21st century. So that's how you can compare. So compare events. Okay, compare some revolution, Russian revolution, American French revolution, to any you could say movement, because revolutions are not happening in the contemporary times, but any movement, maybe Arab Spring or whatever, for justice. So from that time till this time, we are fighting for justice, we are fighting for equality. So that is how you can compare the events. Personalities. Okay, so you have Jatayu and Bhishma. I will be taking up the story of Jatayu in the the recording, the later session, where I'm talking about the ideas and the examples. Here I'm just giving you hint that you can bring in your different personalities. Jatayu and Bhishma from Jatayu from Ramayana and Bhishma Pitama from Mahabharata. Then you have Gandhi versus Tagore. There's a very common example that I give. It's again from Akriti Sethi. She was again a rank holder, and she got good scores in the essay. So in one of her essays, she has started with the comparison of Gandhi and Tagore, not a general comparison, but there was one particular event in the Shanti Niketan where Tagore had a different approach, Rabindranath Tagore, and Gandhi had a different approach. Tagore was asking his students to clean the rooms and do the the chores and all. He was asking him, but Gandhi, when came, he started doing those chores himself. He was cleaning his own room, he was doing all the work himself. That motivated the students to, because of course Shantiniketan had students from elite families, from good families, where of course the work is outsourced to a domestic help. So there, when Gandhi when actually started doing the work on his own, the students got motivated and they followed him. So that's how you compare. Then you also have one major comparison of scientists like Tesla and Edison, right? A nice comparison can be done. Tesla was, a different kind of scientist, and Edison was more of a shrewd kind of, I would say, business-oriented scientist. He wanted to, he was an entrepreneur also. So in a way, you can just have these comparisons ready. Okay. So even if you have a common example, now Tesla Edison is something which is not unique, but you can pick up two common personalities, and when you contrast and compare, that's how you also lend a little bit of impression to your essay. Use quote slash poem plus a short story. Sometimes if you think that you're bored with the same kind of anecdote and you don't have a good idea coming into your mind, but you're good with poems and quotes, what you can do is that in the introduction itself, either you can use a quote or a poem, but then add a short story. So maybe some short story of any personality or anything, and first you write the quote, then you use that short story, or first you write few stanzas of a poem and then you write the short story. So your story here could be a common, very common, something from history, something from French Revolution, something from Indian independence struggle. Okay, it could be anything, a very common story, a very common event, or any common narration. But when you combine it with a quote or a poem, it gives a good impression. Okay. Then, if you're good at current affairs, the CA stands for current affairs. If you're good at current affairs, contemporary topics, if you're opting for contemporary topic, please use news headlines creatively. So that's also, with small effort, you can actually write a good, impressive introduction. So if your topic, is hinting towards something which is contemporary nature, you can use newspaper headlines as a way to start, like 3-4 headlines. If you write that, okay, headline 1 on this day, and headline 2 on this particular day, and headline 3 this happened, and then you're trying to highlight that, okay, through these events we understand that maybe there's lack of justice in society, or there's a lot of inequality in society, or people are not happy, there's a lot of disturbance and social disorder, whatever is the topic all about. Okay, so these are few very simple ideas, but if you try and apply it, you'll be able to do. Please use this contrast and compare. And I'll recommend that when you sit tonight, just after the session, when you sit tonight, please prepare some contrast and compare kind of examples from your own perspective and your own understanding and learning. Okay, because these are examples that I've given you, but then you have lot more examples, lot more comparison of personalities, right? So approach of B.R. Ambedkar versus Gandhi, you have so many, approach of Patel versus Nehru. You can pick up a lot of such examples, and even events for that matter, right? इसको मैंने इसलिए लिया reference because of course that's such a contemporary discussion and issue, but then you have a lot of events that you can use. Now let's move on quickly to the body content, thesis or non-thesis. Okay, so yes, what I'm trying to say is that it's your call, because I emphasize that I'm not going to change the essay writing style at this point of time. My aim is not that. But then I'm just trying to understand that when you're writing the body content, what are the important things that you need to keep in mind? So if you're writing thesis or no thesis, I'll just give you one guideline, which is that if you choose an abstract topic. Now, what is abstract topic? Abstract topic is not all who wander are lost. You cannot step twice in the same river. A ship in the harbor is safe, but that is not what it is made for. The time to repair the roof is when the sun is shining. Okay, I hope you get the understanding. So these kind of topics, because it is difficult to interpret and it is having multiple interpretations, you need to write a thesis statement. I hope you know what is thesis statement. It's just collection of arguments, the ideas, broader ideas that you are going to write in the essay. Okay, so your thesis, it's your call. Some people are not so comfortable in writing thesis. No problem. Nobody would give you extra marks for thesis. Thesis has only got a role to play, that it gives a sense of clear interpretation to the evaluator, that this is my interpretation. These are my broader arguments and ideas I'll be writing in the essay. Okay. And without thesis also, you can write an essay. So thesis just gives an interpretation and a little bit of structure, because you're following the same question one by one, and all that analysis is going on. So that's how the role of thesis is. If you're not comfortable with thesis, no worries. You can also write an essay with no thesis. It's just that please ensure that within the body content, you are referring back to the ideas that, okay, having discussed this, or in the upcoming paragraphs, or having looked at this perspective, there is another side of the coin, and then you write the various other arguments. So keep referring or keep using these kind of connecting sentences and transitioning sentences to lend structure and organization to your essay. Okay, if you're not using any thesis, and if you're using thesis still you want to, that's also the thing that can be done. Subheads or no subheads, your call. If you're using subheads, I will say don't use GS kind of subheads. GS kind of subheads like disadvantage, demerit, merit. Use some creatively framed subheads. If you're not comfortable with subheads, you can skip that. I'll just recommend one thing, that if you are using such things, then try and bring variation. Don't use both thesis and subheads in one single essay. Try and bring some variation. That's what I'm trying to say. And I'm using the word try. It's not compulsory, because again, we are not going to change the writing style. We are just going to make it better. So the idea is that try and bring, because there are two essays to be written. So if you bring variation in your section A and section B essay, you will have a chance of good impression and scoring high. Right? First para of body. Now, I deliberately put this discussion because there's a common query by students, that when we have written our introduction, how to move on to the body content. So first para of the body, it could, depending of course on the topic, it could have a perspective of history, some origin of the problem, or some evolution. If the topic is about social injustice, I might start, okay, how the society was divided and why injustice and why inequality is present. So the origin part, evolution, natural evolution, or from the history part, right? That is one idea. Then if your topic is more about the human aspect, he who has a why to live can bear almost anyhow, let him, he would move the world, first move himself. So talk from the human perspective, human importance of human endeavor, human ingenuity, human values, human how humans are not content with little, So discontentment is the human way of living out life, and that's what has brought us from cave dwelling to the present world. So something from the human perspective you can start and write about it. That's also your first paragraph of the body. If you are feeling challenged to transgress, like how to move from introduction to body, these ideas you can follow. Or the concept base, if your topic is directly on conscience, compassion, integrity, okay, these kind of values or something, then you can start with the concept also. What is meant by conscience? So you start, conscience is defined like this, and various thinkers have given various ideas, and then you can start with that, right? So concept based also you can start. Okay. So these are the ways you can start your first paragraph of the body content. Then in the body, what is more important is ideas arrangement. So while brainstorming only, you will arrange your ideas and sequence it. So in the essay, it comes out to be presented logically. It has some coherence. If in the brainstorming, when you're, putting your ideas in the raw format, there only you sequence it, you will have a better flow and coherency in the essay, right? So it could be arranged, your ideas could be arranged in what? It could be logical, like maybe something is following something else, right? Forest precedes civilization and deserts follow them. So of course you will first talk about the civilizational aspects and how a civilization is framed, and then the forest part of it, that forest precedes. So before a civilization, the earth is raw, the nature is raw and it's totally untouched, and you have so much forest and flourishing and all that. And then of course deserts follow them. That means civilizational progress leads to cutting off those forests and leads to destruction and leads to desert. That's how the logical thing is, right? Temporal, spatial, temporal, especially time, history का है या कुछ ऐसा reference लेना है, so you can start with your history and bring it to the contemporary. Okay. Then follow sub phrases of the topic. That means philosophy of wantlessness, utopian, materialism is chimera. So you will not start your discussion with materialism is chimera. You are logically following the sequence of the topic, which talks first about philosophy of wantlessness. So you will start the discussion with philosophy of wantlessness, and then you will frame the other arguments. So how you need to sequence is you should be following these ideas. And of course, placement of the counter argument will always be towards the later part of the body. Ideally, to the very last, just before the conclusion, your counter argument should be there. Counter argument का weightage please limited रखना, not more than 3 to 4 paragraphs. 1 to 2 paragraphs में भी खत्म कर सकते हो, that's very good. Not more than 1.5 pages of counter argument. Okay, so because you're just trying to say that there's another perspective to this topic, and I'm just putting out as a counter argument that this perspective is also valid, but you will not leave everything and start justifying the counter argument, right? So your main focus should be on the core argument, core idea of the topic. Counter argument just as a sort of giving a nuanced argument, nuanced impression to the essay that you're writing, and it should be placed towards the very end of the body content before the conclusion, and you can arrange your ideas following these ideas. Okay, then the body presentation and all that. So that was the content part. This is the presentation. Using connectors to change paragraphs. Please use connectors. I will give out 2 PDFs today. One is of the idioms and phrases, because you can use it to write and just like little bit of creative element to your essay. And there is one, the list of connectors. Please revise it. That's just like 1-2 pages ka content is there. You just have to use those connectors, that if you want to emphasize, you want to add to an idea, then what are the list of connectors you're using. Moreover, however, in addition to, on the other hand, if you're using some contrast. So those kind of connectors you should definitely use when you're changing paragraphs. It leads to flow and coherency. It leads to ease of reading. Please remember ease of reading. If I'm able to read, I will give you marks. If I'm not able to read, I will not read, but I will give you marks. And that marks will be less. That's clear. Okay, marks तो देने ही है ना उसको, तो कुछ भी फिर देंगे. Proper paragraphing, minimum 2, maximum 2.5 para per page. I explained that, right? Carry a pencil to mark symbol as hint to wrap as analysis. Now, this is something that I want to sort of demonstrate. So, for example, you have these pages and all that, okay, and this is such a small tip, but I just want to tell you, because it is better with the demonstration part. So I'm just asking you that you please carry a pencil, because if you're planning to write, because nobody has the time to count words, so usually please fix your number of pages that you're going to write. UPSC gives you 11.5 pages. If you're writing 10 pages or whatever, that means maybe 1.5 to 2 pages for introduction. So count that page before you actually start writing your essay. You have this page, maybe, for example, this is your first page and this is your second page. And my idea is that by this page, my introduction should definitely get over. So here I will just maybe put a small pencil, say a small mark, like pencil, say a small mark over the top of it. And don't, like, it's a very small mark. So it's just a hint for you that by this page, by the end of this page, or you can also do it in the, later half, like this margin is there, na? Usually you have those margins. So a small mark over here to give you a hint that by this page your introduction should get over. Then similarly, when you have written your multiple pages of the body content, wherever is the place you want to start your conclusion, कि definitely मेरा यहाँ से conclusion तो start हो जाना चाहिए, put a mark or maybe put a mark just a page before, so that you have a hint कि यहाँ तक तो body content को wrap up करना है, so that I can start my conclusion, or maybe I have to wrap up my body content here so that I can start my conclusion from here. Whatever, however you do your space management, please do, but please keep this small tip in your mind. It will be better. Why I'm saying this? Because there are many students who don't consider this. They keep on writing the body content and then they realize that they don't have space left for conclusion. Please write proper conclusion, at least 1.5 to 2 pages, 3 to 4 paragraphs. You have to write. Okay. I hope you understood. Okay, just give me a moment, 2 minutes of patience. Right, okay. So the pencil part is over. Then you have important words in cap. Yes, very, very important. For ease of reading again, with your cursive, the problem is not with handwriting. Even with beautiful handwriting, every word looks similar. So if you want your examples to stand out, you have written some theory, some thinker, some example, you want that thing to stand out, you want to catch the attention of the evaluator towards that, you need to write that in capital. I am putting it out in many times in the evaluation. Many times I have mentioned this on the copies, but students are still not doing it. Please do so. Please write at least the most important words in the capital. Let's imagine a scenario. Your copy is the last copy to be evaluated for that particular day. It's not the first copy. You always imagine the worst scenario. So it's the last copy and the UPSC evaluator is in a hurry to go. So even if they are in a hurry, the way you write your essay, the way you have written some words in capital and underlined your major arguments in sentences, major arguments only, not underline the everything. If you have underlined the major arguments, my eyes or the evaluator's eyes will focus on those things because it will catch my attention. And even if I'm in a hurry, I'll do what? I'll be able to scan through your copy in a quick way. So even if your essay is the last copy, you made my life easy. I was able to understand that, okay, ये चीज लिखा है, हाँ, fine. Give him marks. The student has understood the demand of the topic, has addressed through variety of examples and ideas. And that is why I'm asking you to do this. You assume that things are going to be so favorable. Your copy is the first copy of the day. The evaluator is going to sit with a nice cup of hot tea and check your copy, and he's in a good mood. No, life is not perfect. He's in the worst mood. He hasn't had lunch or dinner or breakfast or chai. Okay, the center where he's sitting and checking the copy is disturbed. It's chaotic. There's too much of noise going on. He doesn't have concentration and focus. So you make their life easy by doing this. That okay, if you're not interested in reading my each and every word, at least read these important words that I've written in capital and read these important arguments that I have underlined. And trust me on this, because of their experience, by doing this, they can understand what the student has written. Please, these are very small things, but they make a hell lot of difference in your score. You don't really realize it about it. Okay, so catch examiner's attention. Don't take for granted that someone will read your essay. Now let's come to conclusion. So Again, not changing the method of writing conclusion, whatever you are doing, good. Okay, if you are part of the test series, you have given, you have written tests with me, I have given the feedback over there, follow that. You have to write 3 to 4 paragraphs, at least 1.5 to 2 pages. Why? Because conclusion has separate marks, and I'm telling it from my own bitter experience. One time I took it for granted, I was not able to manage my time, my second essay ka conclusion got compromised. I did write it, but I knew that any sane person while reading my essay will understand that the student was in a hurry and just wrote anything. I wrote gibberish and I scored less. So conclusion has separate marks. Don't take it for granted. You can do what? You can bring some philosophy, you can bring some role model, you can bring some suggestions, call to action, suggest some steps, and please end with some quote or poem. Don't take it for granted. Please use some shloka, some doha, whatever you can bring in. Bring it, of course, it should be relevant to the topic. Do end your essay with these things. Okay. Similarly, like, I always used to give this analogy many, years back. I'm going to repeat it. Essay writing is just like climbing a hill. When you're climbing, you're writing your introduction, you're building up the pace, you're building up the context. Then you're on the mountain top, you write things from the 360-degree perspective, multi-dimensional perspective, multiple arguments. Sara arguments cover kar liya 360 degree ghum ke, right? And then when you're writing a conclusion, you don't do bungee jumping. Direct nahi kood jaoge. Again, you will come down slowly. So that is how you built up the momentum. You have to bring back slowly the momentum to these ideas and then end your essay. So don't do direct bungee jumping directly to conclude, लिख के काम खत्म कर दिया, नहीं. Use these ideas, and if you're part of the test series, you know what I'm talking about. I have already written in the evaluation. So this is what is about the common mistakes and all. I hope you watch it on higher speed. Of course, I'll give out the instructions also. And there are 2 PDFs that I'll be giving out. The first one is, of course, the idioms and phrases. Please just go through it. Whatever you can, recollect. A stitch in time saves 9, jack of all trades. Like, these kind of small phrases, if you add to your essay, and it can also help you frame creative subheadings. Many students, they want to frame subheads, but they're not good with it. These phrases and idioms can be really used to frame those subheads, right? Then the connectors, because when you use those connectors, now there's a lot of words in that particular PDF, but at least choose 2-3 for different. So however, moreover, in addition to, conversely, like choose 2-3, like, for every kind, that okay, counter argument ke liye likh sakte hain, same cheez ko emphasize karna hai, so I can, write these kind of connectors. Please revise it, please practice it. Practice in the sense that revise it so that you're able to use it in the exam. And please use connectors on the day of the exam. If not for every paragraph, at least for alternate or every 2-3 paragraphs, you should be doing that. Okay, it ensures flow and coherency, it ensures ease of reading. The entire thing that I've discussed is just to help you remember ease of reading. If your evaluator is able to read it, they will be able to give you marks. If they are not able to read it, they will give you marks, but not as per the desired thing, right? So with this note, I end the session, and I'll see you in that content wala session where we'll be revising few things. Okay, so take care, bye bye. And today's task is to revise at least one of your recent essay that you have written, because today I talked about the mistakes. Please see that what mistakes you are doing in your copy, because not all mistakes are done by every student. Some mistakes, so you need to see that which mistakes you are making, and so that it hits your mind that, oh my god, I didn't realize I put out so many commas, I wrote such a long sentence, I did not do this, I did not do that. So from that perspective, you should be reading your any recent FLT that you have written, or any recent essay that you have written, self-practiced, evaluated, doesn't matter, because while reading your own essay, you will realize that what mistakes you have done. Please do it just after this session, because it's very important. Then only you will realize that what are your pitfalls, where are the mistakes that you make, right? Okay, so take care and revise. All the best.